Hi, welcome. Today I would like to discuss how you can use the HTTP in Angular 2. So let's get started. Basically, I have a starter app which really doesn't do much and it is just showing just this, and I'm already running it. So let's say you want to start by creating the first step usually is to create a service. So I'm going to use the ngCli to create a service, and I'm going to type in this command called ng generate service, and I'm going to give my name for the service file to be API. So once the service is generated, you can see it is creating a new file called API service.ts, and we can take a quick look as to what the stub has been created. So this is basically the service. So if you want to use your service, you basically have to import it in your module so it can be available everywhere. So I have written down what you normally would need is essentially import the API service from the location, and we can add it to our module. So let's just add it to the module. Typically, when you add it to the module, you also need it to be added as a provider. So you can go ahead and add it as a providers here as well. And that's basically the stub service, and well, that's all you really need, and it's not being used right now. So if you look at the app, it should still be hopefully working, and let's just do a quick check, and yeah, it is working. So the next step is to go ahead and start filling in things within the service itself. And I am going to kind of show you step by step what to do. Basically, what you want to do is import headers and HTTP from Angular HTTP. And from RxJS, you want to get in the promise because I'm going to use it as a promise. So let's get those two things in our service here. And if I get those, it shouldn't be any problem. It should still be running fine. And now the step is what do you want your service to do? So I have essentially done two steps. First step in the service is to inject the HTTP module that you got, and we can do just by modifying the constructor, and that's all it looks like. It basically creates a variable HTTP private, and it's in getting the module HTTP. And Angular is doing that pretty much for you. The only thing I'm doing here is giving the name small HTTP. And what I'm going to do is, let's say this is going to provide an API called get users. And let's me just copy this, and I'll kind of go over what this API is doing. Basically, what this API is doing is it's calling a URL, and this particular URL, and to get some JSON array. And so the syntax basically is this .http.get, and I'm just using rxjx operator to promise, and I'm going to change it to promise, and that should pretty much be it. So here you can see this is the URL, and I can show you what this URL is doing. Basically, it is a free service, and you can see if you click on it, it's just providing some JSON data. And I can put the link for this, the JSON placeholder website. So in case you want to use it for your own test, you can use it as well. So that's pretty much what all the service is doing. When you call get users, it returns a promise. So now let's see what we end up changing in our component. Uh, and this was basically my component, and I'm going to change the code that I'm going to set up in my component. Basically, in my component, I'm going to do for demonstration purposes everything in the constructor, and I can show you what it is going to do. So I'm just adding a constructor here, and here it's complaining it doesn't have an API service. So we can probably just do what we did in the module, is to get the API service. And once we get the API service, it's pretty good. And it says it doesn't really have the property users, and so we can create a missing declaration for the properties any users, and that should be it. So what we here did was we got injected the service, we call the API get users, and since it was a promise, we can do it then. And it says users going to basically whatever response I'm getting, I'm changing uh, it to a JSON and just saying users.json and assign it to my local variable. And that should be pretty much it. And I think I need to add something to end the constructor. So that's should be all what I need to change. And let's just see what happens to the app at this point. So you can see the app is essentially beginning to display all the names I got. But let's just show what's happening at this point. So I'm going to put a debug here in my component file, and you can see it's coming through. And here's the users.json, and here is the object data. And basically we are getting this data that we needed, and I'm just taking in this name information and displaying it in the template. And I can quickly show you the template as well. And template is very simple, and it's really not the point of this exercise, but what it is saying is it's using the ng for directive. It says user of users and it is displaying the user.name. So that's actually a pretty easy way to start adding the HTTP module into your Angular 2 app. If you want to know more, I'm going to add this link to the site and also add this Angular 2 HTTP on my website as well. And thank you for watching this short screencast, and you have a great day.